There's a new game that's been taking Roblox's bleak, unending warfare genre by storm. Gravedigger, not that one, I know I was disappointed when I found out as well, is a recent shooter released by none other than Arch Xmas, the publisher of Decaying Winter, Anomalous Activities, and Contact A888. While it shares many staples of the genre, like Great War era weaponry, trench digging, de-emphasized personal performance, and a grim, bordering on edgy tone, Gravedigger distinguishes itself through a unique fantasy setting and fresh gameplay mechanics. We've seen artillery and tanks powered by magic and operated by smurfs. We've seen unending carnage that stretches across the entire Centauran continent. You know what we haven't seen though? Knights with Mausers slaughtering airsoft larpers in a claustrophobic mineshaft. Welcome to the tunnels, meat. Here's your complimentary trench knife and a rifle with 5 bullets. Now get out there and catch some lead. Psst, hey, come here. I've got a secret to share with you all. Don't tell anyone, but deep down, I love to play video games. Ever since I got my first smartphone, I was hooked on Minecraft, Terraria, Galaxy on Fire 2, Blox World, and so much more. When I first got into Roblox, I saw the bangers that were popping up all over the front page and I thought to myself, man, I wish I could make something like those. If you're a longtime viewer of the channel and you feel the same way, I've got good news for you. This video is sponsored by Southern New Hampshire University, and they're seeking aspiring students for their game development program. This program will arm you with the knowledge and experience to create your very own video games and build the skills to help you make it in the games industry. You'll learn how to become proficient in 2D and 3D modeling, texturing, and game physics, as well as how to create an enjoyable user experience by utilizing successful interface design. Have you ever been frustrated by game's difficulty or enemy AI? In the SNHU Game Development Program, you'll learn how to create dynamic and challenging experiences for players with game AI. The program covers the 3 major programming languages, C++, C#, and Java, which were used to create some of the most popular games of all time. When I was getting my cybersecurity degree, some of the professors were way out of the loop. One of them didn't even know what YouTube was until we showed him. At SNHU though, the courses are taught by faculty with authentic, real-world experience. This means that they know what they're doing and you'll have opportunities to connect with people who have experience in the industry. When you graduate, SNHU will be there to help prepare you to start your job hunt. Now, when the words college or university come up, the first thing on everyone's mind is money. Fear not though, because Southern New Hampshire University is accredited, non-profit, and has some of the lowest online tuition rates in the nation. It was even voted one of the country's most innovative universities by US News and World Report. Go to https://snhu.edu/skit, also linked in my description below, to see if you qualify for SNHU's game development program. You might even be eligible for financial aid or have previous college credits that could fast track your degree at SNHU. Thank you to Southern New Hampshire University for sponsoring the channel, and we are back into the video. The year is 1919. World War I has just ended and Europe is once again at peace. That is, until something extraordinary happens. In this timeline's 2020, Queen Elizabeth took control of every maternity ward in the Commonwealth, giving her access to enough adrenochrome to preserve her frail body indefinitely. During the ritual, though, one of the Rothschild cultists unexpectedly died, causing the whole thing to go awry and sending the Queen back in time to the setting of the game. With her newfound powers, she takes control of the government and proves so vicious and divisive that the nations of the interwar world coalesce into 2 great factions, the Golden Empire and the Royal Nation, led by King Ferdinand of Romania. As things got more and more heated, there was a brief moment where peace seemed feasible. The world had just torn itself apart, millions upon millions of lives lost, economies in shambles, and suffering across the board. Why destroy the remainder of humanity so soon after all that bloodshed? As the 2 world leaders met each other in a final fleeting attempt at diplomacy, a lone dove descended from the heavens and landed in the middle of the room. Ferdinand looked up at his imperial counterpart. His eyes softened, and a noble compromise settled firmly in his mind. Sadly, the Queen's eyesight had diminished greatly over the eons, and she mistook the pigeon for a newborn child. As the horrified assembly looked on, she consumed the poor creature alive, intent on gaining yet more power. In this gruesome display, the fate of the world was sealed. The Golden Empire and Royal Nation bombed each other into annihilation, and then bombed each other some more. The entire surface of the planet became uninhabitable, and what remained of the human race retreated in the depths of the earth. The Empire pillaged museums, Renaissance fairs, and the homes of medieval LARPers, acquiring vast amounts of sallets, kettlehelms, gambesons, and more. Ferdinand fell back on his Romanian roots and stole untold amounts of equipment from the fallen German Empire. As humanity moved underground, so too did the war. This is where Gravedigger takes place. A ruthless, bloody, and ultimately pointless struggle over small caverns and mine shafts. The only certainty down here is that the sound of gunshots will continue echoing through the tunnels until the last humans have died out. The gameplay is pretty cut and dry. Both teams fight over 3 capture points in a domination-style game mode. Dead players respawn in waves every 45 seconds, and the battle ends when one side's tickets are totally depleted. What makes Gravedigger stand out from similar shooters is the nature of the battlefield. The entire map, save for the capture points and spawn rooms, begins as a solid mass of stone. Players need to use their pickaxes to tunnel through the earth toward their objectives, meaning that the very shape of the battlefield is determined by the routes that people dig. Sometimes they'll bore a straight, narrow path directly between the spawns, encouraging long-range sniping, and other times they'll make a wide-open cavern to maximize exposure on an objective. The other neat thing about this system is that it turns the battlefield into a 3-dimensional environment. Not only can players dig left or right, forward or back, but they can also travel up and down as well, giving themselves a better vantage point or undermining enemy tunnels. The rest of the equipment is decidedly less interesting. You're provided with the typical range of rifles and sidearms. Labels, Mosins, Mausers, you get the picture. The only exception is the sword, which can feel great to get kills with, but it's only effective in very specific scenarios. Everyone gets a medkit, and certain classes get access to special items I'll talk about in a later segment. The main thing I want to say about the guns is that they suck. I've spoken my piece about desirable traits in video game guns far too many times, so instead of wasting my breath, I'll just tap the sign for now. The weapons in this game are, in my opinion, heinously underpowered. It should not take 4 shots to kill with the most powerful rifle in the game, let alone all the weaker sidearms. The only gun I would say is properly balanced is the equine shotgun, which is devastating at close range but becomes ineffective past 15 yards. I assume that the lack of damage indicators and other UI elements is intentional to bolster the theme or simply hasn't been added this early in development. In any case, the inability to see how much damage you're doing or even whether or not you've hit your target contributes significantly to the feeling that your weapon is utter garbage. Most of the aiming, movement, and reloads are pretty clunky in general, which I know is completely intentional because there are perks and drugs that can alleviate it. I don't know why this would be an unpopular opinion, but if a feature is making your game less enjoyable to play, you should probably rethink the value it provides. I'm not going to get too deep into the classes. All you need to know is that the Rook is a sapper and the Mortician is a junkie. He just can't get enough drugs in his system, and if he injects too much, he can just pop some Paradaxa and take even more. I've also noticed that the Mortician's cocktails are the only way to make the sword a viable weapon. There are also a bunch of perks that you can use, which stay true to Decaying Winter in that they're all unique and useful enough to be someone's favorite. Once a team runs out of tickets, they have the opportunity to hold out in a last stand with no respawns. This would be a really cool feature if you were actually incentivized to participate. Instead, you could just surrender for a lot of free experience and not have to deal with the final battle at all. I don't know why they reward you for surrendering while also chastising you for surrendering. The game can be played in first or third person, which I usually have a problem with, but the narrow nature of the map and the fact that everyone's wearing a lantern that gives away their position nullifies most of the typical third person advantages. The last thing I'm going to say is this. This game sold me on its aesthetic style. The Golden Empire uniforms are peak design, which just serves to make it obvious how lame and dorky the Nation soldiers look by comparison. That being said, the Nation does tend to win 90% of the matches I participate in, probably because, you know, which of these guys are your eyes drawn to first? I wish the Nation had its own type of knight armor though. I think it would sell the aesthetic that much more. Ultimately, Gravedigger is a very interesting game conceptually. The digging mechanics and setting give it just enough of a personality to make it stand out in an already saturated genre. However, most of the potential that Gravedigger might have is still unrealized. I know that it's at a very early stage in its lifespan, which is why this isn't a proper skit review and I'm not going to rate the game. But the version that's currently up isn't replayable or satisfying enough to warrant sinking too much time into. It nags me too because the style is so cool, like the description for some of these guns is straight out of Hunt Showdown. Again, the game just came out not too long ago, hopefully it'll improve in time, but right now I just can't see it competing with established titles. Hey guys, editing skit here at the end. I just want to say thanks for sticking with me, thanks for watching this video. I think in the near future I might try to review some bad games. Like my first skit review was on a bad game. We need more balance in that regard, so that's the direction we're going to be heading. Otherwise though, thank you for watching the video and I'll see you all next time. Goodbye.